The Dominion had ruled for so long that most species believed it had always been there. Their banners, vast geometric sigils of silver and violet, hung over 1,000 conquered worlds. Their fleets patrolled the trade lanes like silent gods. Their laws were not debated, they were delivered. And when the Dominion declared Caro's plane a compliance zone, no one expected resistance. Caro's plane was not a planet, it was a phenomenon, a vast region of folded spacetime where gravity flattened into a shimmering expanse of luminous dust and ion storms. Stars warped along its edges like reflections in a broken mirror. Ancient civilizations had used it as neutral ground for summits and trade because no single species could fully control it. Until the Dominion tried. Their armada arrived in disciplined formation, obsidian dreadnoughts flanked by carrier arrays, escorting spindled cruisers bristling with particle lances. The lead flagship, the Unyielding Will, projected its declaration across all channels. By order of the Dominion Assembly, Caro's plane is hereby annexed. All unauthorized fleets will withdraw. Compliance ensures survival. There were many fleets already present. The Virex Collective had been negotiating trade corridors with the Thalian Concord. The Rune Protectorate maintained a scientific outpost along the plane's outer distortion belt. None of them had the strength to challenge the Dominion. But pride is a stubborn thing. The Virex refused to withdraw first. The Thalians would not yield neutral territory. The Rune calculated their probability of survival at 4.3% and decided that was sufficient to justify resistance. The first shot came from a Dominion cruiser, cold, precise, and inevitable. Within minutes, Caro's plane erupted into chaos. Ion storms ignited under weapons fire. Ships warped and reappeared in fractured trajectories as spacetime rippled violently. Particle lances stitched burning lines through the dust fields. The Dominion moved with terrifying coordination, their command AI predicting enemy movements before they occurred. One by one, resistance fleets shattered. The Virex carriers split open like cracked fruit. The Thalian defense lattice collapsed in cascading explosions. The Rune warbeasts, living bioships bred for vacuum combat, were reduced to drifting embers. Dominion broadcasts continued calmly throughout. Compliance ensures survival. Across the plane, despair spread. And then something new appeared. It did not arrive in formation, it did not broadcast credentials, it did not respond to Dominion hails. At first, no one even noticed it. A single vessel slipped through a distortion fold at the plane's southern fringe. Its hull was not obsidian or silver, but matte gray, scarred and asymmetrical. It looked almost small compared to the towering Dominion dreadnoughts. One ship. The Dominion flagged it as irrelevant. Unidentified vessel, the Unyielding Will transmitted, withdraw immediately or face enforcement. The vessel did not withdraw. Instead, it altered course, straight toward the heart of the battle. Aboard the Unyielding Will, Dominion Overseer Kale studied the sensor feed. "Origin?" replied the tactical AI. A murmur rippled through the command chamber. Humans. The Dominion had encountered them only twice before. A young species, technologically adaptive, annoyingly resilient, not yet worthy of conquest, not yet threatening enough to prioritize. Kale felt a flicker of irritation. "Open channel." The gray vessel responded immediately. A human face filled the projection, dark skin, short-cropped hair, eyes steady and unafraid. The uniform was unadorned, bearing only a small emblem, a stylized blue planet crossed by a white line. "This is Commander Aaron Whale of the Earth vessel Resolute. Mind if I enter the fight?" Silence filled the Dominion chamber. Kale stared at the human. "You are entering a Dominion enforcement action. Withdrawal is advised." Whale glanced off-screen as if checking something. Yeah, we figured. Looks uneven. You possess one vessel. That's right. You will be destroyed. Whale smiled slightly. Maybe, but not before we make it interesting. Before Kale could respond, the Resolute accelerated. It moved wrong. Not faster, though it was fast, but unpredictably. It slipped between distortion currents like a needle threading fabric. Dominion targeting arrays recalibrated repeatedly, struggling to lock. The Resolute dove beneath a Dominion cruiser and released a cascade of micro-drones. They spread like metallic pollen, embedding themselves into the cruiser's hull. Seconds later, the cruiser's shields flickered, then collapsed. A single rail strike from the Resolute's forward cannon punched through the cruiser's core. The Dominion vessel detonated in a burst of white fire. Across the plain, surviving resistance fleets paused in stunned disbelief. One ship. Kale's composure tightened. "Adapt," Kale commanded. "Isolate the target." 3 Dominion frigates moved to intercept. They fired in coordinated sequence, creating a net of intersecting beams. The Resolute did not evade. It split. Or, rather, it appeared to. 6 identical signatures scattered across sensor displays. The beams struck empty space as the real vessel re-emerged behind the frigates. A pulse of electromagnetic disruption surged outward. 2 frigates went dark. The third managed to pivot, only for a Thalian cruiser, newly emboldened, to ram its flank. The battle shifted. The presence of the human ship was not overwhelming in raw firepower, it was catalytic. Whale transmitted on open channels. All non-Dominion forces were syncing tactical overlays, watch your feeds. A Virex commander blinked as new data flooded their displays, real-time predictive modeling, Dominion firing cycles mapped and exploited. "How?" a Virex commander began. "Long story. Let's just say we've been studying them." Kale realized the truth with growing unease. Humans had not arrived randomly. They had been watching. The Dominion escalated. A Dreadnought rotated its primary spinal cannon toward the Resolute. Energy built along its length, bright enough to outshine nearby stars. Whale saw it. "Well," she murmured, "that's new." The Resolute dove toward the distortion belt. The cannon fired. A beam of annihilating force carved through Caro's plane, warping space in its wake. The Resolute vanished into the distortion storm. The beam struck and destabilized the storm instead. Gravity folded inward, ion clouds compressed violently, a shockwave rippled outward, disrupting Dominion formation. The human ship emerged on the other side of the storm, intact. Whale exhaled slowly. "Thanks for the push," she muttered quietly. She had not merely fled the shot, she had used it. The distortion storm, destabilized by the cannon's energy, now surged unpredictably, precisely where Dominion dreadnoughts had positioned themselves for maximum control. Massive vessels struggled against gravitational shear. Resistance fleets seized the moment. The Rune warbeasts returned to the fray, launching bioplasma into exposed hull seams. Thalian cruisers formed impromptu strike wings guided by human targeting data. Virex carriers deployed their last reserves. Kale watched the Dominion's perfect formation unravel. "All units," Kale commanded, "prioritize the Terran vessel." 20 ships turned as one. Whale saw the sensor bloom and felt her pulse spike. "That's a lot of attention," her helmsman muttered. "Good, that means they're not shooting everyone else." The Resolute accelerated directly toward the approaching formation. On Dominion screens, it looked suicidal. At the last possible moment, the human vessel transmitted a burst across all channels, encrypted but not well enough. Kale's AI began to parse it. Too late. The microdrones deployed earlier had not only disrupted shields, they had mapped Dominion command protocols. The burst exploited a synchronization vulnerability, one the Dominion had never needed to defend against because no one had ever survived long enough to study them. Across the formation, targeting arrays hesitated.
a fraction of a second. But in battle, a fraction is eternity. Resistance fire tore into confused Dominion lines. The Resolute streaked through the gap and released something new. Not a missile, not a beam, a gravitational inversion charge. It detonated at the center of the Dominion formation. Space folded violently inward, dragging Dreadnoughts into collision courses. Shields flared and collapsed. Hulls screamed under impossible stress. The unyielding will shuddered as nearby ships spiraled into ruin. Cale gripped the command dais. "This is impossible," he whispered. But it was happening. The Dominion had ruled through certainty, through overwhelming force and flawless coordination. The human ship had introduced uncertainty, and uncertainty spread like infection.